G'day everyone, and welcome to Bourke! That's where the wildest floods have birth, out of the nakedest dens of earth, at the back of Bourke, where poor men lend and rich ones borrow. It's the bitterest land of sweat and sorrow. But if I were free, I'd be off tomorrow, out at the back of Bourke. Where are we heading today?
We're heading to the back of Bourke.
Let's hit the road, Jack! And we were off. We'd pulled up stumps at the Nyngan Weir Free Camp, and we were now pointing our ram and caravan in the direction of Bourke. This would be another one of those big days driving. Well, big days for us. Jackie's doing the first stint of driving. It's a big day today. She'll do an hour and I'll do an hour. I think it's basically a 2-hour trip there, maybe a bit more. We're heading to the back of Bourke. Back of Bourke, one of the most recognisable Australian terms. Far more than a geographic location, back of Bourke is the deep, innate gravitational pull that most Australians feel toward the far centre of the continent, the outback, the real Australia. From the 1880s, Bourke was a booming port, handling wool bound for world markets via the Darling River. The press called it the Chicago of the West. By 1885, Bourke was accessible by rail, confirming its position as a major inland transport hub. During this period, Bourke was the largest inland port in the world. And to quote one of my favourite poets, Henry Lawson, "If you know Bourke, you know Australia." So it's no surprise Bourke has such a fantastic information and exhibition centre. It's a great place to learn more about Bourke's history and to grab a feed, which is exactly what Jackie and I did before exploring the exhibition grounds and checking out the fantastic sculptures on display. Bourke also has its own resident artist, Jenny Greentree. Her gallery in North Bourke is a must-see, and her art is simply breathtaking. And speaking of North Bourke, well, that's where we were camping. So we headed over to Kidman's Camp. It sits 8 kilometres out of town and is situated on the banks of the mighty Darling River. This would be our home for the next week whilst we bulked up on supplies before hitting Rose Isle Station and Gundabooka National Park. But first, we needed to explore Bourke. The following day, Jackie and I headed over to Bourke's historic cemetery, and it's one of the best. Under the shade of beautiful coolabah trees sits a fascinating piece of Australia's frontier history. We spent over an hour browsing the inscriptions that took us back into a world of bushrangers and drovers, cameleers and riverboat men, lost children and local heroes. And one would think walking around a cemetery would be safe. But is it? I've had a major problem with me thong here at the grave. God, that's gone right through into me. Ouch! Ah! Bourke Cemetery predates the town, and it has been the scene for 2 of Australia's most famous funerals. In 1892, a young Henry Lawson joined in the procession following the coffin of an unknown young stockman who had drowned in a billabong near Bourke. The melancholy event was captured by Lawson in what became his best story, The Union Buries Its Dead, a classic tale from the western frontier. And in 1993, Professor Fred Hollows, the eye surgeon known worldwide for his passion to restore sight, was buried here in Bourke. All aboard. Now if you happen to be camped at Kidman Camp like we were, well, it's only a 400-metre walk and you'll be experiencing the beautiful Darling River aboard the majestic Chandra paddle boat. Once on board, the captain will inform and entertain you with a delightful commentary on river life, flora, fauna and the history of the riverboat era. The original Jandra was a steam paddle boat built in Mannum, South Australia in 1894 for Arthur Senior of Bourke. This modern paddle boat was built by Russell Mansell and his family and commissioned in 2000, the first paddle boat to operate on the Darling River in over 60 years. The Jandra paddles its way down the Darling to the North Bourke Bridge, the oldest movable span bridge in New South Wales. It opened in 1883 and served for 114 years before being bypassed in 1997 when the new bridge was built. Well, our 5-day stay here in Bourke had come to an end. Tomorrow we'd be heading out in search of colour-drenched sunrises and sunsets, acres of cloudless azure skies and untouched bushland for miles and miles. So the next morning, Jacqui and I were up bright and early, leaving Kidman's camp and pointing ourselves in the direction of Rose Isle Station. You see, Jacqui and I were originally going to camp in Gundabooka National Park, but when we were checking in at national parks in at Bourke, the young bloke there suggested we should try Rose Isle Station. So we did. Jacqui and I were now on the Darling River Run, about to experience the majesty of the Darling River in outback New South Wales. And 5 Darling River facts you may not know: fish can climb ladders, Charles Sturt originally named the Darling Salt River, Tulpa means floodwaters in the local Aboriginal language, 80% of Murray cod are found within 1 metre of a snag, when they're not climbing ladders of course, and the Western catchment supports 471 animal species and well over 1,000 plant species. Now Jacqui and I didn't have a big day of driving today. It was only a 70-kilometre trip from Bourke to Rose Isle Station, so we stopped in at Gundabooka Conservation Area to make ourselves some breakfast. So as I watched emus strolling by, I made us some pancakes. Just take a look how far up the Darling River goes in flood, above those tree lines. Woohoo! We were in the outback now, driving long dirt roads full of red bull dust, so it was important that our caravan didn't fill up with the stuff. We're just testing the van for dust. We've got our front hatch there open, because on our travels we've met a few people that have had problems with their vans filling up with dust. Heaps of dust in here though. In here.
That's because we didn't wipe it down.
That's because we didn't wipe it down. Finally we reached our destination, beautiful Rose Isle Station. With a large area of powered lawn sites, bathrooms and showers, a rustic kitchen, self-contained cottage, shearers' quarters, laundry, barbecue facilities and a pizza oven, well, this would be the perfect place for Jacqui and I to call home for the next week. A week of hiking, bird watching, paddle boarding and bike riding. Not to mention exploring the wonderful Gundabooka National Park, which I might add we were planning to do the following day. So of course I was up bright and early, cooking a hearty breakfast and excited for what the day had to offer. Once Jacqui and I arrived at the end of Rose Isle Station's long driveway, it's only a couple of k's down the road before you'll come to the Gundabooka National Park turn-off. Here you'll find yourself in an area rich in Aboriginal and pioneer heritage that stretches from the banks of the Darling River to the summit of Mount Gundabooka and across the vast floodplains of the Darling River. Well, Here we are, little mountain walking track. Gundabooka National Park. Our first walk for the morning was the little mountain walk. And trust me when I say the days were getting bloody hot, which is why we were up early to beat the heat. This walk is an easy to medium graded 4.2 kilometres from the dry tank picnic area through mulga woodlands to nearby Little Mountain, which I have to say is quite a nice view. We made it! One walk done and dusted, it was time for the next one. So we left the dry tank campground and we drove for about half an hour to the Mulgawan Aboriginal Heritage Site. We'll be checking out the Yappa Rock Art. The Yappa Art Site walk is a pleasant, easy 1.4 kilometre, 40-minute return walk from the car park to some fascinating Aboriginal art sites along Mullareya Creek. And this walk was definitely my favourite so far. Walking amongst the ancient rocks was an enjoyable experience indeed. These petroglyphs set amongst an unsport bushland would give Jacqui and I an unforgettable off-the-beaten-track experience. When we arrived at the enormous rock overhang, we discovered unique Aboriginal rock paintings that not only depicted animal motifs, but dances, hand stencils and hunting tools. The surrounding Gundabooka Range and Mullareya Creek is a significant area where ceremonies were held and the echoes of a vibrant Aboriginal culture can still be felt. When we arrived back at Rose Isle Station, it was time to cool off. Our first full day here had been a fantastic one, and we were excited for what was next. We're up super early to go bushwalking. We've left early to beat the heat. Today's trek would be a difficult 6-kilometre walk, so it was imperative to get out there early. Temperatures would hit the mid-30s, so we packed a lot of water and some food for today's adventure. Alright, here's the walk we're doing. The Valley of the Eagle walking track. Jacqui and I had this whole place to ourselves on this most magnificent of mornings. This is a bit of a difficult walk for me today because the rocks are really sharp and my thongs are really worn. I'm due for a new pair. It's a difficult, steep 6-kilometre walk to the summit of Mount Gundabooka, and the return walk over rocky and very steep terrain should only be undertaken by fit and experienced walkers, which begs the question why I was doing it. However, you will be rewarded with spectacular views of the Darling floodplain all the way to the horizon.
How are your thongs holding up?
Yeah, pretty good. Now there's quite a bit of interesting legend and folklore associated with Mount Gundabooka, because back in 1868, the bushranger Captain Starlight mortally wounded Constable McCabe of the Bourke Police at the local Angonia Inn. Captain Starlight was pursued west and captured 6 months later. On this very spot here at Mount Gundabooka, Jacqui and I were climbing. As for the badly wounded Sergeant John McCabe, he died a lingering death and is now buried in the Bourke cemetery that Jacqui and I visited only a week ago. So not only does this place have a lot of history, but it also comes with spectacular views. We've reached the summit!
Woo!
It's the Valley of the Eagle bush track in the Gundabooka National Park. Yoo! And when we finally made our way back to the car park, we found this. Just go back to the ute and have a go at the bees. They're trying to get into the ram.
They must know the water's there.
Yeah, maybe. Far out. Look at them all. Holy shit! Holy shit!
They're swarming.
They're landing on me as well. After 2 adventurous days bushwalking the glorious Gundabooka National Park, it was time to settle in at Rose Isle Station and relax, like everyone else. And after being here for 3 days already, it was time to enjoy one of Samantha's famous morning teas. And I was settling in nicely to the daily routine of farm life. Each morning I'd remove the resident green tree frog from the toilet seat, stick him to the shower wall, and then replace him when I was finished. Then everyone was happy and ready to seize the day. We spent hours paddling up and down the beautiful Darling River, watching and listening to all the birds, and we even saw the odd Ricali, aka Australian river rat. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. I still have some improving to do when it comes to drone piloting. Hey Jacqui.
Yep. What?
I got the drone stuck in a tree.
What?
Stuck up here somewhere.
Sitting on a branch.
How are we going to get that?
What do you mean we, Wayne? What are you doing now, Wayne?
Now, they should be like soft hands to just gently cup the drone and bring it out of the tree. Come on. Well, that came down fairly slowly. Little poor fella. Ta-da! There you go, that's some good old-fashioned farming ingenuity right there. Then it was time for Jacqui and I to explore the station on Samantha's Honda buggy. And of course our e-bikes, when we weren't fixing punctures, that is. I think at last count we were up to puncture number 8. Ooly dooly. Here's some merino wool. Look at that. Order! Order! Court will now proceed. Well, we're here at Rose Isle. How long have we been here for, Jacqui?
6 days.
6 days, and we are the last man standing once again. Hey, how good are we? 6 glorious days where we've spent 2 days in Gundabooka National Park. We've had a fabulous time. We've paddled up and down the Darling River here numerous times, and I think tomorrow we're heading off. There's so much to see and do here on the beautiful Rose Isle Station, and Jacqui and I only scratched the surface, which only means we'll definitely be back. Rose Isle has everything to suit your camping needs, and rest assured you'll be well looked after by Samantha and Garry. So I guess there's nothing left to do but give our Back-a-Bourke experience a score. This past week and a half camping in Bourke and Rose Isle Station and exploring the magnificent Gundabooka National Park, well, I can't give it anything but a big 5 out of 5. I've loved it.
I had a lovely stay in Bourke, and we were at Kidman's Camp for about 5 days. We then moved on to Rose Isle, and that was absolutely wonderful. Samantha bought us ice every afternoon for our drinks because it was so hot. And for me, the highlight was Gundabooka National Park, where we did the Valley of the Eagle walk. It was just magic. So I'm giving our whole experience a 5 out of 5.
Well, that's all we have time for today, so hit the like and subscribe button. I'm Artist Wayne.
And I'm Jackie, and we'll see you next time. Happy travels.
See ya.